Welcome to the Montgomery County High School Football Show with your hosts, Main Street Clarksville sports editor Brady McAtamney and Robertson County Connection sports reporter David Wilson. The Montgomery County High School Football Show is brought to you by the Bone and Joint Group of Clarksville. They are committed to serving the community by providing a superior standard of care to all of their patients. Rock and Roll Sushi of Clarksville. Stop by their Wilma Rudolph location today and grab one of their signature sushi rolls and listen to some classic rock hits. C-Wraps of Clarksville. Whether you're in need of a new color change to your vehicle or would like a new wrap to advertise your business, C-Wraps has the knowledge and expertise to get you back on the road in style. Danielle Stack at Farmers Insurance. If you're in the market for new auto, home, life, business, renters, or even pet insurance for your fur baby, Danielle can secure you with a personalized plan that fits all of your needs. And the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Remember, fans don't let fans drive drunk. Now, here are Brady McAtamney and David Wilson.
Hello and welcome back to the Montgomery County Football Wrap-Up Show. I'm Main Street Clarksville sports editor Brady McAtamney. As always, with my co-host David Wilson. We're here to talk about all things Week 7 and preview Week 8 at the end of the show. David, how you doing?
I'm good, Brady. How are you doing? I know you're in a really good mood after last Thursday's road win for the Detroit Lions. I know you were probably fired up.
I'm doing good. By the way, do you know where that road win was at?
It was at Lambeau Field in Titletown, USA.
That's right. The Lions defeated the Packers 34-20, so I'm happy about that 4-game winning streak against the Packers, your Green Bay Packers. So happy about that. David, let's shrink the scale down a little bit from the NFL down to Clarksville. We're talking all things Clarksville, Montgomery County football, and I think I know where we're going to start.
Yeah, we're going to start off with the undefeated Clarksville Wildcats. They picked up yet another win this past week, a 55-0 win over Northwest. Our Clarksville High School football segment is brought to you by the Bone and Joint Group of Clarksville. The Bone and Joint Group is committed to serving their community by providing a superior standard of care for all their patients. Give them a call today at 931-905-1001. Who are some guys that really stepped up for the Wildcats in their win over Northwest, Brady?
Yeah, so of course you got the usual suspects, guys like James Dalrymple, who, by the way, all he did was run for 5 touchdowns in that game against Northwest. So 35 points just by himself. I guess 30 if you want to count without the extra points, but still quite a game for James. You also had Peyton Langan, a senior. He hasn't gotten as much. He hasn't gotten his name dropped as much this season, but that's still a guy who has been crucial for their run game. He's kind of their bigger back, bigger than James Dalrymple, bigger than Amari Galbraith. This week against Northwest, he had just 7 carries, but he took them for 188 yards and a touchdown. He also had a 2-point conversion, had 2 tackles and a tackle for loss on defense. So he did a little bit of everything in the win over Northwest. You also had defensive back Isaiah Soto. He was my defensive player of the year last year in Montgomery County. And in this game against Northwest, he had 5 tackles and 3 interceptions. So a big game for Isaiah Soto, big game for Peyton Langan, big game for James Dalrymple. Of course, this game that we kind of expected Clarksville High to win because Northwest isn't having the strongest of seasons this year, whereas Clarksville High, like you said, they're undefeated. But those guys all had great games, and looking forward to seeing how they can possibly carry that momentum going into this week before the bye.
Let's move on, Brady, to a team that was undefeated through the first 4 weeks of the year. That was the Kirkwood Cobras. The first-year school up in the Clarksville area had been phenomenal and off to a storybook start. The last 3 weeks have been really frustrating for that group. They lost 3 straight games, including last week's loss to Liberty Creek by a final score of 47-23. Our Kirkwood High School football segment is brought to you by C-Wraps of Clarksville. Whether you need of a new color change to your vehicle or like a new wrap to advertise your business, C-Wraps has the knowledge and expertise to get you back on the road in style. So give them a call today at 931-551-5255 for a free estimate. Brady, are you hitting the panic button for this Cobras group after the last 3 weeks?
Yeah, so just first off, I want to say that being 4-3, there are far worse records that you could have through 7 games, especially as a first-year school. I think if you told Chad Watson's group that they'd have 4 wins through 7 games, they probably feel all right about that. However, it's kind of a difficult point right now because they have lost each of their last 3 games to Dixon County, to Rossview, to Liberty Creek, and none of the games have been particularly close. I believe this game against Liberty Creek may have been the closest of the group, and that was still a 24-point loss. So definitely a frustrating point. As far as hitting the panic button, I would say I'm probably right about there just because they do play Clarksville High this week. So all likelihood they will probably be 4-4 going into the bye week. And after starting 4-0, you'd kind of like to be in a better position than that. So I am panicking a little bit just because this is such a young group, and getting off that schneid is tough for any team, but especially a group that is led largely by juniors and sophomores. They've only got a couple seniors, and even those seniors don't have as much game experience as some other seniors that you might find at other schools. So I would say that this is a very, very critical point for Kirkwood because they probably are walking into a loss on Friday night, going 4-4 into that break. How are they going to respond during that bye week? They've got fall break coming up, so maybe a time to just clear their minds a little bit before the last couple games of the season. The good news for them is they still are in the hunt for a playoff seed. There are 2 spots left to fill behind Clarksville and behind Rossview. So those 3 spots are going to be filled by Dixon County, who they have already lost to, and then either Kirkwood or West Creek. It's going to be those 3 teams filling 2 spots. They will be traveling playoff games, but they're still playoff games nonetheless. And I know that one of their primary goals was to get into the playoffs and finish above 500 if possible. They still have a chance to do that, and I do think they have a solid chance to do that based on some of the upcoming opponents that they have. However, for now, I would say that there's a little bit of panic probably going on with the Cobras.
Brady, let's move on to the Montgomery Central Indians. They dropped, their 7th straight game this week. Still looking for their first win of the year. They lost to Fairview by a final score of 34-20. Our Montgomery Central High School football segment is brought to you by Daniel Stack at Farmers Insurance. If you're in the market for new auto, home, life, business, renters, even pet insurance for your fur baby, Danielle can secure you a personalized plan that fits all your needs. So give her a call today at 931-553-1493. Do you believe that Montgomery Central has improved from the start of the season?
From what I have seen and from some of the things that I've gathered from Montgomery Central, I do believe that there has been improvement to this point. You would hope so based on, you would hope that there's growth across a 7-week span. And I do think there has, based on some of the things that I've seen, team records, stats, some of the accounts that I've gotten from some of the games, a game against Fairview, who is, near the top of their district, competing for a playoff spot, is and competing in that game 34-20, like you said. That's not necessarily a super close game, but it's not some of the games that they've played earlier this season. Of course, they've taken just massive losses to Clarksville High and Pearl Cone, and understandably, because those are 2 teams that we have ranked in our top 25 in Main Street Preps. In fact, Pearl Cone number 1 in our rankings. So it's understandable that those games will happen. But they've competed in a lot of other games. They were very close to beating Whites Creek last week, came very close to beating Creekwood a couple weeks ago, and now competing with Fairview, who is, probably a postseason team. So I do think that there has been improvement there. Again, this is another team that's been very, very young, just a second-year head coach total. So I think that they're still kind of learning as they go. Of course, they kind of got gutted by losing Jeff Tomlinson to Dixon County. He had a lot of graduates alongside with him. And even last year, they had a lot of seniors, but kind of like with Kirkwood, those were seniors who may have been veterans in the hallways, but not necessarily on the football field. So I do think that, this isn't necessarily the most unsurprising season outcome that they could have had, but they're still kind of building that experience, still kind of building that trust with one another, still kind of getting, I think some things with the playbook ironed out, because head coach Corey Wright did tell me that they're going to be kind of changing things up a little bit. They do have some good players like Bo Bowers and Jack Poley, guys who can go out there and contribute to winning. So I do think that, overall, Cannon Connor, these guys, they're good football players. And, it stinks for them that the season has gone this way. But overall, I think that there has been improvement for Montgomery Central, and I am definitely pulling for them to get at least one win before the season ends because nobody wants to go 0-10.
We'll transition to one of the hottest teams in the mid-state. The Rossview High School Hawks picked up yet another win this week over Dixon County by a final score of 28-6. Our Rossview High School football segment is brought to you by Rock and Roll Sushi of Clarksville. Stop by their Wilma Rudolph location today and grab one of their signature sushi rolls and listen to some classic rock hits. Does this 5-game winning streak have you believing that this Rossview team is legit?
Man, I guess it'll depend on the definition of legit. Do I think that they're legit as 6A state title contenders? No, of course not. You know, you're going to be going through teams like Oakland and Maryville to get to that point. And Rossview just probably doesn't have the firepower for something like that. However, legit in terms of, you know, Region 7, 6A competition, maybe even potentially getting a playoff win out of this season? Absolutely. I mean, some of the things that I saw from them against Dixon County this past week, I mean, they were making some plays, man. I mean, especially on defense. I just want to recount a couple of the plays that I saw here. And if you read my recap of this game, you'll know what I'm talking about. First, Dixon County in the first quarter, on their first drive, kind of starts driving. You know, they get a big play. And, of course, at this point, Rossi was still protecting their shutout streak. They go for kind of a pitch play. And Hezekiah Scott, they call him Hezzy. This is a baseball player, by the way, who they recruited to play football. He had played football a couple years ago, but didn't last year. Had focused entirely on baseball, and rightfully so. He's a great baseball player. But he reads this pitch play, jumps the lane, swats the pitch away. It's a fumble because it was a pitch and not a forward pass. Scoops the fumble and returns it all the way almost to their red zone. I mean, he's a really good athlete. And, I mean, that was just a huge play to turn the momentum of that game. And then another play where Dixon County is kind of moving a little bit, and the leader of their defense, Cole Phillips, he's only a junior, by the way, but already a 3-year starter at linebacker. Dixon County gets the ball to one of their top players, their running back. His name's escaping me right now, but as Cole Phillips is tackling him, he just rips the ball out of his arms and right into his own arms. So I don't know if you could even call it a fumble because that ball never hit the ground. Cole Phillips just ripped that ball. It was just a great play. It happened right in front of me, so I got to see it all right there. Just a crazy good play. And then Cam Ward, who's a basketball player, he plays DB for the Hawks, had a great interception in the end zone later on in the game to kind of help keep their lead. So these guys are just playmakers all over the defense. And on offense, I mean, DJ Young has been one of the better running backs in the county. His quarterback, Reed Bryant, has been playing great. They also put Hezekiah Scott in there at quarterback at times because he's a great runner. So they have just so many options on offense and just so many different guys who can beat you over there. Colin Michael had another touchdown catch. He's been a very pleasant surprise for them this year. Rossview, yeah, I mean, I definitely do think that they're legit in terms of getting one, potentially more playoff wins.
We'll take our first commercial break here on the Montgomery County Football Show. Coming up, we'll talk about Clarksville Academy and Kenwood right after this.
When it comes to insurance, you want a name you can trust. Wendy Danielle Stack is here to help. With over 7 years of experience, Danielle and her team are here to assist you in finding the right coverage for all of your needs. From auto and home to life and business insurance, we have customized options for everyone. We'll work with you to create a personalized plan that protects everything in your life that matters most. Call today and see for yourself why Danielle Stack is the go-to insurance agent in Clarksville.
Meet Dr. Casey Sigerson of the Bone and Joint Group, Clarksville's only hand and wrist specialist. He's passionate about getting his patients back to living their life after suffering from an injury or degenerative condition. Dr. Sigerson treats all orthopedic conditions, from injury to recovery, and is dedicated to getting his patients moving again. Whether you need joint arthroscopy, joint replacement, fracture care, or help with a hand or wrist problem, Dr. Sigerson is here to help. Schedule your appointment today at boneandjointgroup.com.
Here at Rock and Roll Sushi, we're proud to be the original American-style sushi restaurant founded on great food and rock and roll music, boasting concepts and flavors that are big, bold, and loud. We're the only place to experience the rock you love and the rolls you love with the ones you love. Come see for yourself why we're the best sushi experience in town. Find us at 108 Morris Road in Clarksville or visit our website at rockandrollsushi.com. If you're looking for a color change, look no further than C-Wraps. We're Clarksville's premier vinyl wrap provider, delivering high-quality work and exceptional customer service. We offer a wide range of services, including color change wraps, ceramic coating, paint protection film, and wraps for commercial vehicles. Whether you need a color change on a luxury car or commercial wraps for your business fleet, we have the expertise to handle any project. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation.
He shoots, and he scores!
Welcome back to the Montgomery County Football Wrap-Up Show. We are wrapping up Week 7 here in the area. And David, why don't we kind of get going here with Clarksville Academy?
Yes, let's talk about Stedman Bell's Cougars. They lost to Columbia Academy by a final score of 38-7. Who do you see as building blocks for this CA team moving forward? That guys that they can build and have influence around.
Yeah, so we knew this was going to be kind of a building season for Clarksville Academy. Overall, they lost just so much from last year, and kind of a smaller roster that they've had this year, both in stature and in numbers. But they are some pretty good players. I want to start with the quarterback, Chris Reagans. Maybe not a quarterback by trade, but he's been a really good athlete. He has struggled a little bit passing, 1 touchdown to 4 interceptions, but 244 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Behind an offensive line that is at this point kind of patchwork and still kind of figuring it out. He's a very good athlete and a guy who has been able to pick up some ground yards, make some plays. He's also got his top receiver, Andreas Scott. This guy is only a junior, if I believe. He's got 244 yards, which is nearly half of the team's receiving yards overall, and he has caught both of their passing touchdowns this season. So you just know that that's a guy that when whoever's back there, they trust to get the ball to. A great athlete overall. That is someone who, if Clarksville Academy can kind of continue to build on where they're at right now, that's going to be a guy who can potentially be a breakout player for them. And a freshman that I wanted to mention, his name is Grace Snodgrass. While the defense has struggled a little bit at times this year, they've had some games where they may have struggled to contain the opponent at times. As a freshman, this guy already has 10 tackles for loss this season, and that's only in 7 games. So again, freshman, 10 tackles for loss in 7 games. That's really, really impressive, especially for a team that doesn't have a lot of players. So he's out there a lot, playing a lot as just a freshman, and he's clearly contributing. So very impressive there. So, to recap, guys that I have liked for CA so far this season: Chris Reagans, junior quarterback; Andreas Scott, a shifty wide receiver; and Grace Snodgrass, a defensive player out there who's kind of been moving around and making some big plays.
Brady, Kenwood picked up their first win of the year this past Friday night, a 36-6 win over Northeast. What impressed you about this win for Kenwood?
Yeah, so something that impressed me about this win was their ability to kind of put the game away. A lot of times teams, especially teams who are struggling, as Kenwood was coming into this game 0-6, they kind of struggle to finish games out. That's kind of a big thing that's kind of learned with being a winner, is how to put games away, how to put teams away. And Kenwood did this. They were up only 12-6 at one point and into the third quarter. And they just really, really pulled away. They made plays, even on defense, just fumble returns. I believe they made some big plays on special teams. And, of course, quarterback Jacoby Cox making big plays against Northeast to help bury the Eagles. Now, Kenwood, they still have a chance to get to that 2, maybe 3-win mark in the region. They could be a dark horse team to potentially slip into that 4 seed in the region. Now, I'm not saying that that's a guarantee that they're going to do that, because like I said earlier, it's kind of Dixon County, West Creek, and Kirkwood kind of battling for those last 2 spots. However, if Kenwood can get hot, they potentially have a chance to make a play here. I believe they still have Northwest, and I know they have West Creek still on the schedule. They play Dixon County next week as the only game in town, so that could be a huge indicator for where they're at this point. Of course, it's going to have to come on their defense. But as you saw, just 6 points allowed to Northeast. I know Northeast has struggled this season, but they scored more against Green Hill and Henry County, and those are two really good football teams. So a good job by Kenwood there. That did impress me about what they did, was their ability to put the game away, ability to make plays defensively, and overall, I think this could potentially be a turning point for Kenwood this season.
Brady, we mentioned Northwest lost to Clarksville earlier by a final score of 55-0. Despite the end result, who are some guys that really flashed in that game for you from the Northwest perspective?
Yeah, so talking about teams that have had difficult seasons, maybe no team has had maybe a more frustrating 7 games so far than Northwest. They lost that first game to Fort Campbell by just 3 points, and it's just kind of been a struggle from there. But they do have some pretty good players, even guys who are getting some college looks. A lot of them are on defense too. You see defensive end Bryce Brooks, a very disruptive player. One of the guys on that team who can get to the quarterback, maybe make some big plays. It can be a little tough when the score is what it is, because that can maybe take some air out of a team. But that is a guy that is a very good football player. Deontay Crawford, that's a defensive back. I believe he plays some wide receiver as well. He's just an exceptional athlete. That's a guy who will make plays. No doubts about it. Got to just get the ball in the right position to him, and when on offense and when he's on defense, got to be mindful of where he's at. He's that kind of player. Also, running back Bryson Moore, kind of a smaller guy, but lightning fast, very shifty. They like to get the ball to him. Of course, it's a matter of making holes for him, making it so teams can't really key in on him. That kind of starts with opening up the passing game, something that they have struggled to do a little bit earlier. I mentioned earlier Isaiah Soto for Clarksville High had 3 interceptions this past week. So when the passing game is taken away like that, it can become a little more difficult for a guy like Bryson Moore. However, very good football player. And Keaton Warford, that's the big guy in the middle for them. He's their defensive tackle, their run stuffer. Teams try to maybe not run the ball straight towards him at times because he is kind of just one of those big guys who can plug up holes. So you kind of have to get a little bit more creative when you're going against a guy like that. So those are some of the players for Northwest who have shown out a little bit kind of through the cloudy skies at this point for the Vikings.
Just moments ago, we mentioned Northeast 36-6 loss versus Kenwood. What are some things that helped? Well, I guess didn't help, but what are some things that contributed to this loss for Northeast?
Yeah, just a tough loss for Northeast because, you go into a game against another 0-6 team. That's a game that you want to win and expect to win if you're Northeast. I know that some things that were just absolutely frustrating for them, a lot of penalties in this game. This game took a long time on Friday night because there were just flags after flags, and it really slowed down the game, and especially on Northeast side. From my photographer that was there, Robert Smith, he was telling me about how, just flag after flag. He said that both teams had to have had at least over 100 yards of penalties, and especially in Northeast. He said that potentially 150 yards of penalties. And when you're doing that, you're not going to really beat anybody, much less a team who is as hungry for a win as Kenwood was going into that game. So I would say that's probably the biggest contributor. I would say also probably some turnovers. Some fumbles, some just untimely things, things that you like to have ironed out after the first couple weeks. I know that they've got a first-year head coach, Sam Lipsy. He's doing his absolute best. He's a great guy, great young coach, and I know he's going to get things figured out. But they got gutted by Kirkwood opening up. They got gutted with just seniors transferring. They got gutted with Cam Athy, who has absolutely been starring out in Arizona this year. They've still got some pretty good players, don't get me wrong, and we are going to talk about them this season. But at this point, I do just kind of want to mention how, it's frustrating for these guys because just penalties, still things that they're trying to iron out for a young team. And, those are just going to be the things that make it even more difficult to win past just the initial roadblocks that you have.
The last team to discuss on the Week 7 slate is West Creek. They lost to Stewart's Creek by a final score of 45-14. What were some things that you saw from West Creek this past Friday, Brady?
Yeah, so I was able to get to this game as well as the Rossview-Dixon County game because this was on Thursday, a little Thursday night football in the area. So I was happy to be able to get to this game, be able to see Stewart's Creek, who, as we know, is a really good football team. They actually just got back into the top 25 in the MSP poll this week after beating West Creek. And man, it's kind of some similar stuff that I saw with West Creek against Clarksville High a couple of weeks ago. They had some plays that show you, like, man, why are these guys, why do these guys only have 2 wins at this point? Just some really exceptional plays. I mean, they had one drive where they had one play, a run with Daniel Honeycutt, who is kind of their do-it-all guy. I mean, he had some great punts, some kicks, some kick returns, handoffs, passes. I mean, he's just been a great player for them, and he's one of the leaders on that team. He had a run go for about 30-something yards. The very next play, they get a pass to Nate Lucas. He takes that like 40 yards, and then unfortunately the drive stalls out. It's just kind of a matter of them finishing, being consistently good, because they have some really good players. DJ Swanson later in the game had like a 33-yard touchdown run, but earlier in the game he took almost took a safety, but instead fumbled the ball in the end zone, and Stewart's Creek fell on it. When he came back to the sideline, they were telling him how he can't hold on to the ball that long. You got to, at some point, throw it away. And he's only a first-year starting quarterback. So those are things he's learning. That's kind of been a theme this year for both West Creek and Montgomery counties. A lot of teams are young, and a lot of teams are learning. And Rob Galowitz's crew is no exception to that. However, I do think that overall they are talented enough to get into the playoffs, and I would love to see them get into the playoffs and get some experience going for next year, just because they do have so much talent. Those guys that I've mentioned, Jaden Hines is an extremely talented two-way player on the outside at cornerback and wide receiver. He dropped a pass that could have potentially gone for a touchdown early in the game. At one point, they had major momentum, scoring a touchdown and then getting an interception. But then it goes by the wayside with a kick return touchdown after scoring their touchdown. I mean, just that kind of stuff. It was 12-7, kick return touchdown, and then the game just wasn't the same from there. So unfortunately, I do need to see that consistency from West Creek, because I do believe that they can be a really, really good football team. I mean, I had them as a team that could potentially battle for a home playoff game this year. I mean, they have that kind of talent. Just they need that kind of consistency. They need to keep their heads in the game, not make some of those kind of silly week 1 mistakes. Because when they aren't making those mistakes, they're a dangerous football team. And Stewart's Creek head coach Ben Caudill, after we were done talking after that game, he made it a point as we were kind of separating, walking off, going our own ways. He goes, "Hey, that's a good football team over there." I mean, he had all kinds of props for West Creek, and when you're getting that from the head coach of a team that could potentially be pushing for a couple playoff wins this year, you're doing something right.
We'll take our final commercial break here on the Montgomery County Football Wrap-Up Show. Coming up, what Brady will reveal his Week 7 Player of the Week, and he'll break down all the Week 8 matchups right after this.
If you're looking for a color change, look no further than C Wraps. We're Clarksville's premier vinyl wrap provider, delivering high-quality work and exceptional customer service. We offer a wide range of services, including color change wraps, ceramic coating, paint protection film, and wraps for commercial vehicles. Whether you need a color change on a luxury car or commercial wraps for your business fleet, we have the expertise to handle any project. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation. Here at Rock and Roll Sushi, we're proud to be the original American-style sushi restaurant founded on great food and rock and roll music, boasting concepts and flavors that are big, bold, and loud. We're the only place to experience the rock you love and the rolls you love with the ones you love. Come see for yourself why we're the best sushi experience in town. Find us at 108 Morris Road in Clarksville, or visit our website at rockandrollsushi.com.
Meet Dr. Casey Sigerson of the Bone and Joint Group, Clarksville's only hand and wrist specialist. He's passionate about getting his patients back to living their life after suffering from an injury or degenerative condition. Dr. Sigerson treats all orthopedic conditions, from injury to recovery, and is dedicated to getting his patients moving again. Whether you need joint arthroscopy, joint replacement, fracture care, or help with a hand or wrist problem, Dr. Sigerson is here to help. Schedule your appointment today at boneandjointgroup.com.
When it comes to insurance, you want a name you can trust. Wendy Danielle Stack is here to help. With over 7 years of experience, Danielle and her team are here to assist you in finding the right coverage for all of your needs. From auto and home to life and business insurance, we have customized options for everyone. We'll work with you to create a personalized plan that protects everything in your life that matters most. Call today and see for yourself why Danielle Stack is the go-to insurance agent in Clarksville.
Watch it! Did that guy even see that girl on her bike?
Just like looking for other cars before switching lanes, drivers should keep their eyes out for those traveling on bikes. When a crash occurs between a vehicle and a bike, it's the cyclist who is most likely to be injured. Give cyclists room and do not pass too closely. Riders have the same rights and responsibilities as those behind the wheel.
Be aware, be alert. Brought to you by THSO, the Tennessee Highway Safety Office.
Welcome back to the Montgomery County Football Wrap-Up Show. I am David Wilson, sports reporter for the Robertson County Connection, joined as always by your guy, Main Street Clarksville sports editor Brady McAtamney. Brady, Week 7 Player of the Week, and then hit us with all the Week 8 matchups in Montgomery County.
Yeah, let's do it. So our Player of the Week is going to be a guy we mentioned earlier in the show. We're going to be switching up a little bit. Not the school, but the player. It's going to stay with Clarksville High this week. But my Player of the Week is Peyton Langen. First time being Player of the Week this week. I mentioned earlier his stat line, did a little bit of everything. 7 carries, not a lot, but he made the most of them, going 188 yards, over 10 yards per carry. That's with a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, 20 tackles, and a tackle for loss. In fact, I said that's over 10 yards per carry. How about over 20 yards per carry as I do the quick math in my head? So just an outstanding performance from Peyton Langen, scoring, getting that 2 points, getting a tackle for loss, and all of those yards. So absolutely deserving of the award this week. Now looking at our upcoming games for this week, this is the last week before fall break, so a lot of teams are going to kind of be emptying out their tanks before getting a little bit of rest next week, starting with Clarksville and Kirkwood. So this is a game that really a couple weeks ago I would have thought could potentially be game of the week material, as Kirkwood was 4-0. Clarksville was 4-0. You think what could these teams' records be going into this game? Unfortunately, as we know, Kirkwood has struggled a little bit, whereas Clarksville High has continued to soar. I do have Clarksville winning this game rather handily. We'll see how much Kirkwood can compete. I would like to see them put up a pretty good fight, and I will hope that they can do that, because that'll be the game that I head to. Montgomery Central is heading to Marshall County for a region game. Of course, Marshall County, the Tigers, has been fantastic this year and for the past several years. I mean, this is a powerhouse in 4A, and they're going to be a playoff team. They host a playoff game this year right behind Pearl Cone in that region. So Montgomery Central probably takes the loss there. Northwest and Kenwood are going to battle. This is a game that I see Kenwood potentially taking, maybe starting a little bit of a winning streak there. However, this is another game for Northwest that they could potentially win. So this will be interesting to see who gets that W, because if Kenwood can do it, then they get themselves right there in the playoff picture. If Northwest gets that win, they break that losing streak. So overall, a game that I'm really excited to see the final score of. And overall, I do have the Knights taking it, but we'll see what happens. For Clarksville Academy, they're taking on DCA this week. And while DCA is down this year, this is a team that just won the state championship 2 years ago and was in the state playoffs again last year. Maybe not as great this year. However, unfortunately, of course, as we know, Clarksville Academy a little bit down as well this year. They do have this game at home, so we'll see how they can do, if they can put on maybe a bit of a show for their fans, keep this game close, and maybe surprise DCA a little bit, though I do have the Wildcats taking that game. Thursday night, Rossview, for their senior night, is hosting McGavock. The Raiders, as we mentioned with DCA a little bit down this year, McGavock down as well this year after graduating Demetrius Bell from last year. That's a guy who was originally committed to Michigan State, flipped his commitment to Nebraska, even before all the Mel Tucker stuff, so maybe he saw that coming. But he's there playing for Matt Rule's Cornhuskers now. That has had the Raiders down a little bit this year. They're 1-6. I have the Hawks continuing their winning streak, getting their 6th straight win going into fall break. And my game of the week this week, it might sound like maybe an interesting choice, but it's going to be West Creek and Northeast. And the reason that I have picked this for my game of the week is because either West Creek is going to get their 3rd region win and get themselves in that playoff positioning and get their first ever win against Northeast. That's right. West Creek has never beaten Northeast, a school that's been open since 2009. So that's one potential thing that'll happen. Or Northeast gets their first win of the season. So either way, it's going to be a happy occasion for one of these teams, because one team is going to be breaking off a big schneid, and I think it's going to be awesome to see whatever happens there. I do have the Coyotes winning this game, getting their first win over the Eagles, and having a 3-2 record heading into fall break in the region and setting themselves up for a potential playoff berth. And that's going to wrap it up for the Montgomery County Week 7 wrap-up show. I've been Brady McAtamney, sports editor, Main Street Clarksville. That's been David Wilson, sports reporter for the Robertson County Connection. We will see you next week, but before then, we'll see you on the fields.
You've been watching the Montgomery County High School Football Show with Main Street Clarksville sports editor Brady McAtamney and Robertson County Connection sports reporter David Wilson. Read this week's Main Street Clarksville for all the latest news about Montgomery County High School sports. The Montgomery County High School Football Show has been brought to you by the Bone and Joint Group of Clarksville, Rock and Roll Sushi of Clarksville, C Wraps of Clarksville, Danielle Stack at Farmers Insurance, and the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Join us again next week to get all of the latest news about Montgomery County High School football.